Hello?
We're on to Cincinnati.
You play to win the game.
It was all that Dan Marino's fault. Everyone knows that.
When it's too tough for them, it's just right for us.
Covering the New England Patriots, Miami Dolphins, New York Jets, and the Buffalo Bills.
180! 180!
Kyle Smith.
What kind of defense is it? Because they're disguising their coverage as late. Julio Jones, Chris Hogan, identical stat line.
Gary Smith.
Percy Harvin threw a dumbbell at him, found the weight room. Kyle, please, my butt.
AFC East Bros Podcast.
Yes, yet another episode. AFC East Bros, Gary and Kyle, the Buffalo Bills and New York Jets fan, respectively, talking about the entire division. It's the offseason, but if you know anything about how the NFL schedule works, there is no rest time. Have students coming up to me at school, Mister, I'm not listening to your podcast anymore. Ask them why. They do something wrong, too boring for you. Nah, football season's over. And I said, looked at him, you're not a true fan. You have not become a true football fan yet because you have not embraced the offseason. It's more than just the games. In order to go out there and perform on the field, there's so much that goes into it. There's so much preparation, development of the roster. It's 24/7, 365 in this league. And free agency is right on the horizon. And we all know that it's not a winning recipe to build your team through free agency. However, it is a valuable piece to the puzzle. There is something to be said to making quality free agent signings, retaining some of your own guys. That does matter. So we're here to talk about that, what we would do if we were running each of these four teams in the AFC East, what we would like our respective teams to do, what we would dislike if our teams ended up doing. Gary, how's it going on this fine evening?
Going well. My gracious co-host Kyle Smith, it's going well, man. And I thank you for asking that question, because you know why, Kyle? I'm glad you brought up that free agency talk, because a team that really has been kind of picking like last limb free agents is our defending champs, New England Patriots. I mean, Kyle, Jabal Sheard, Chris Long. You look at a lot of these names. And a lot of names they got off of trades too. Kyle Van Noy from the Lions. Deion Lewis.
Did we mention your boy Hogan? Did you mention him?
I did not mention Chris Hogan. But what about? Listen, we're forgetting a lot from that team. Martellus Bennett, who they got. This is a team that definitely doesn't model themselves as getting players from other teams or other organizations, but really, Kyle, they've had a lot of success with the players they have gotten. And LeGarrette Blount, Kyle, even LeGarrette Blount.
Yeah, right. I mean, shoot, he was picked up mid-season. Both times the Patriots acquired him, they picked him up kind of or one time was it a trade when they first acquired him from the Bucs, and then the second time they got him, I mean, the Steelers caught him right in the middle of the 2014 season because of his pot smoking incident. But nonetheless, he was a free agent. So
yeah. So as you know, Kyle, I love free agency. I really do, and I don't like the big splash signings, but I like to see some of the bottom stragglers that are around.
It is definitely exciting. There's no doubt about that. It's exciting. You like to see some of these big name guys switch teams, and immediately people are going and purchasing jerseys. And I brought up Chris Hogan, Gary. He was fresh in my mind because our boy on Twitter, Fraser Robinson, was saying that he was asking us. He likes to ask us these questions about how fans would feel. And he asked how he thinks Bills fans feel that Chris Hogan won a Super Bowl with the New England Patriots.
I did not see that from him, but I can't speak on every Bills fan, but I will say this, that Chris Hogan was an absolute pro when he was in the building for the Bills, and no Bills fans would deny that. So I'm sure they're happy for him. At least I was. It just stinks it was with the New England Patriots. That's all.
Yeah, and that was kind of my answer. That I'm assuming that there were some Bills fans that were genuinely happy for him because he was a good guy, he was a hard worker, nose to the grindstone type of guy, one of those underrated.
One of the best blocking wide receivers in the league.
Best blocking guy. I mean, listen, he put it all out on the field. You have to like and respect a guy like that for that. But then again, there's also that jealousy factor. Like, obviously, it's not nearly to the same extent. I mean, Darrelle Revis was the homegrown product for the Jets, their own first overall pick. He was their franchise player. He went and won a Super Bowl with the Patriots, and Jets fans absolutely hated him for it. So there is kind of that element where there's probably some Bills fans that had a little bit of jealousy. But speaking of Fraser Robertson, he said that he told us to keep up the brilliant work. And when I think of the word brilliant used in context, I think of the guy who's on the line right now. And this is one of his go-to words. That's none other than Mr. Biff Sweeney, all the way across the pond in Ireland. He likes to use the word brilliant. What's going on, Biff?
How you doing, guys? How's things?
Things are going well, Biff.
Yeah, we're in the off season. It's 25 past 11 across the pond in the old Emerald Isle. Tell me, Gary, before we get into anything, is that the Iceman behind you?
Is that the Iceman? No, I am a big Iceman fan, but that is actually, if I could just point my camera, that is my boy Dan Hendo Henderson.
Yeah, legend.
And he's fighting one of my other favorite fighters, Fedor Emelianenko. And I was actually at that fight live in Chicago in the front row seat. And I actually sat right by, it was at the time Dan Henderson's girlfriend, now it's his wife. And I partied all night with Dan Henderson after that fight just because of where I was seated in that fight. She talked to me, his girlfriend, and you got to hang out with us afterwards. And it was a memorable night. So my friend, one of my best friends, Brett, who came with me to Chicago, actually bought that. It's autographed by Dan Henderson, and he bought that as a thank you for flying us out there.
He's genuinely a good guy. I remember one time we're from New Jersey, South Plainfield, and South Plainfield's a really big wrestling program. So we're always sending 9, 10-ish kids down to Atlantic City every year to wrestle in the state finals, and I was down there. I wasn't a wrestler, but I went to go cheer some of our wrestlers on. And I went and I walked in one of these supermarkets in Atlantic City, and there you go. It was Dan Henderson just kind of walking in, browsing some supplements or whatever. And I just asked him straight up. I was like, hey, Dan Henderson? And, he really down to earth just stopped and talked to me. And I was a little young, ignorant kid at the time. I asked him, I was like, is that cauliflower ear? And he's like, yeah, and he was telling me a little bit about it. It was pretty cool. I remember this was before you had met him, Gary, and I told you, I was like, yeah, Gary, I just met Dan Henderson. You're like, oh, I'm so jealous of you. Anyway, he's a cool guy, though.
Absolutely. My favorite fighter, and glad that he retired, but definitely sadly missed that he did.
And he got screwed. Biff's boy, Bisbing, when he beat him at the end. Wasn't that a screw job, Gary?
He should have won that fight. He should have seen his face. Bisbing's face was all lumped up. I know Biff's all about the Commonwealth, so.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of him.
All right.
Nah, he's a Connor fan, of course.
Yeah, keep it Irish.
Big Connor fan too, Biff. And you and I talked about this one night after you had a few pints. You called me up. And the first thing I'm thinking to myself is, how much is this phone call going to cost me right here?
It was worth it. All right, let's talk some football.
Let's go.
Let's talk football. Biff, I wrote you guys a podcast review. I think it was going back to the summer. And one of the things that I made sure to note was that, if you're a Jets fan interested in the draft, you got to listen to this show because not only are these guys diehard Jets fans, but they have extensive knowledge on the draft class each and every year. So that's something that you're very much into. You love the college game. Tell us, do you have some hot takes on this draft class?
Yeah, the QBs suck.
They all suck.
Yeah, I personally, I don't see any first-round draft prospects QB-wise. I think they're second, third round, fourth round, fifth round guys. My top guy is Watson, but if the Jets pull the trigger at number 6, I think I'd lose my life.
But you would take him at 39 for the Jets. You'd be cool with that?
No. To be honest,
wow.
No, I'd personally, I'd rather see what Petty has.
Oh, God.
Let's see what Petty has. Let's see what Hackenberg can do. Nobody knows.
I'm in favor move too. Keep Petty as a starter.
We all know why he's in the favor for that move.
The Jets are not going to the playoffs. You can all agree with that. The Jets are not going to the playoffs.
They don't have a shot. They don't have a shot, and you know what? So.
Okay. The Jets redshirted Hackenberg. Nobody knows what he's like. Hopefully he goes away and sorts himself out before he comes into camp. I can't see him blowing everybody away, but come back with his mechanics even a bit sorted out. It'll sicken my co-host because he can't stand him.
I was about to get on you when you were saying that these quarterbacks all suck. I was gonna be like, well, that's saying a lot coming from Biff because Biff likes Hackenberg.
Yeah, I do like Hackenberg. I seen Hackenberg in Dublin.
I remember, and that's why you like. I remember I was listening to your guys' show once, and you and Rich were talking about Hackenberg and like, why do you like him? And Rich is like, I know why you like him. It's because of cataracts. And I remember tweeting at you guys, and I was dying laughing, and then I felt bad about it when I realized that you have some kind of eye condition. But anyway, eek.
Yeah, it's all fun.
That was a tasteless joke by Rich. Tasteless joke.
Yeah. Anyway, look. The guys, the Jets redshirted the guy. We need to see what he can do. What's the point in drafting a guy in the second round? What's the point in drafting a guy in the fourth round? Actually trading up to get a guy in the fourth round if you're not going to play these guys. What's the point? And if you're going to suck, if you're not going to go to the playoffs, grab the guy next year. Grab the USC guy next year if you can.
Yeah, I mean, and to just piggyback off what Biff is saying, Kyle, you throw Christian Hackenberg in there, right? And if he shows you a little bit of some capability, let's just say, because listen, Ryan Tannehill got thrown in the fire. He wasn't a finished product when he was starting for the Dolphins. And shoot, Kyle, I think you and I. And I don't know about Biff because remember Biff and I we all had a heated exchange over Geno versus Tannehill this past offseason.
Anywho.
We're keep reminding Biff of all his hats. Anyway, if Christian Hackenberg shows something to the Jets fans, a glimpse of that he could be a competent quarterback, the arm talent's there. I mean, you saw it at Penn State. The mechanics are definitely flawed, and there's a lot of things that are flawed about Hackenberg. But, geez, is there something you could build upon that? Because let's face it, the Jets, and I always bring this up, they took a premier pick, a second-round pick, and they used that in Hackenberg. So, obviously, McCagnon and company saw something in this kid. So, let's see if we can see that something and throw him in the fire.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but when you say a premier pick, yes, second-round picks, you don't want to miss on those. Those are extremely valuable picks, but organizations move on from second-round picks pretty quickly. I mean, think about, for example, Stephen Hill. Stephen Hill, not only did the Jets draft him 10 picks earlier than 51, which was Hackenberg's pick, they drafted him at 41. They traded up to get him. They moved on from him in a couple of years. The Bills, a couple of years back, Gary, they took that big, tall wide receiver from Indiana. How quickly did they move on from him? So,
no, I mean, you're absolutely right, Kyle. But long and the short is, when you talk about those picks, one thing you failed to mention with both James Hardy and Stephen Hill is that there was a change in the GMs for both teams, and this is McCagnon's boy, Kyle, and he's still with the organization. Todd Bowles is still there, so why not throw him into the fire? So that's the only thing. Those are good examples, and I get what you're saying, but the problem is that the GMs were changed with both the Bills and the Jets at the time with those picks. So there's zero attachment to them.
Let's go back to the draft a little bit, Biff. So let's talk about some of these other quarterbacks. You said the whole QB class stinks. There's a lot of people, the top four guys, Mahomes, Kaiser, Watson, and Trubisky, people are pretty high on them, saying a lot of people I would say would mostly say put them in somewhere in the first round. Who's another guy that, people are high on, they're saying he's a first-round grade, but you just think he blows. He's not like, maybe he's third, fourth-round talent, if that.
Kaiser?
Kaiser?
Yeah,
That's your boy, Kyle.
I think I said it to you at the start of the season to watch out for Kaiser, because Kaiser was meant to every draft analyst thought he was going to take the next step and become the next big thing, but he actually regressed. He was benched in everything during the season. I know Notre Dame, they regressed as well because they're after losing so many players through the draft in the last few years. But the thing is, he regressed during the season. I'm not a fan. He's got a big arm. He can run with the ball, but that's all he can do. That's all I see he can do.
Fair enough. And, Gary, you called him my boy. I wouldn't say he's my boy, but I like him better than Watson. I like him better than Trubisky. I don't think I like him better than Mahomes. But I'm scared. I'm scared if the Jets were to select either one of those guys, they do scare me, but their upside intrigues me. Biff, any other hot draft takes? I also do want to pick your brain about free agency.
Before we move on, there's only the one thing about all these quarterbacks that I want to say is Trubisky's the only one that can stand in the pocket and throw the ball accurately. The rest of them, they tend to, when the pocket collapses, they tend to leg it. And that's the first thing in mind. That all they want to do is run with the ball. You can't do that in the NFL because the NFL pocket, it shrinks.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing I've noticed with Watson and Kaiser especially is that especially Watson, I've been studying him, obviously, Kyle, because both of our teams have been linked to him. And he definitely likes to use his legs a lot.
Yeah.
And to his defense, though, Biff, is that he sometimes will use his legs to escape pressure, but he'll also be looking downfield. That's one thing I did like about Watson. But at the same token, I wonder how athletic he is. I really want to see his numbers at the combine because, Kyle, we've seen Russell Wilson, we've seen Tyrod Taylor. They'll do the same thing. They'll keep their eyes down the field and they'll try to create extend the play in the pocket.
And here's
they'll make another pocket. But I mean, how athletic is Watson? Is he a 4 or 5 guy like both those quarterbacks?
Yeah, and here's another one for you, Gary. An awful lot of draft pundits are trying to name him as the next Dak Prescott. Okay, I've seen it a number of times the last month. But the thing is, when Dak Prescott came out of Mississippi, he had no wide receivers to throw to, he had no tight ends to throw to, he had no decent running back. Watson had an arsenal. He'd Leggett, which I think is a very good tight end. He had the
Mike Williams, Sharon
Mike
Peake.
Williams. He'd another Sharon Peake. He'd another wide receiver. He had a running back. He had a good offensive line. He had a really good defense behind him as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I tell if you obviously been listening to the show for quite some time, and one thing I've always say, and Kyle will attest to this, is that it scares me to death when you get a player from an Alabama or Ohio State or there you go, or Clemson, because there's so much talent around these players. You don't know what their flaws are because they got so much good talent around them. They kind of band-aids what they're bad at. You look at a guy like from Tim Williams from Alabama. I see a one-dimensional player. I don't see an all-around player that could really, play the run and be in every down. But you look at the Alabama tape and you think, oh, this guy's a superstar. It scares me, a player like that, because he's surrounded with guys like Mason and whatnot, that could kind of mask some of his flaws. Same thing goes with Watson. Mike Williams, I feel like, bailed him out a lot of situations.
I asked Mark Schofield. Mark Schofield's obviously his QB1 is Deshaun Watson, and he came on our show to preview the Super Bowl, and he said that that was his guy, and there's just something about him that he likes. He did a Watson's interceptions in context video, in which he went through each single one of his interceptions this year, and he said some of them are on him, some of them aren't, and he had 17 interceptions in 15 college games. That's a lot. That's more than an interception a game, and I would say that maybe at least 12 of those interceptions were completely all on him. poor placement or whatever it was, bad decision making. And that doesn't even account for other balls that could have been intercepted. And this is something that I bring up on the show often, interceptables. And I asked Mark on Twitter, I said, well, Mark, I mean, do you also know how many balls could have been intercepted? What were potential interceptions? And he said, that's a good question, one to which I don't know the answer to. So either way you slice it, that's a lot of interceptions, and those accuracy issues. It kind of just reminds me of the previous two big-time quarterbacks that the Jets have taken in Geno and Sanchez. Small guys, not elite arms, but have accuracy issues. And to me, when you go in a windy stadium like MetLife Stadium, that does not bode well. But anyway, let's move on from the QB talk. Okay. Biff, other hot draft takes.
Okay, let's move on to the offensive tackles. The offensive tackles, just like the quarterbacks, are really poor. I've been in conversations with a few guys the last month or two, and they all have the same view as I have about the offensive tackles, like Cam Robinson. You have the guy from Ramczyk, I think is his name, from
Wisconsin.
Yeah. Mm. And an awful lot are saying that they're better off being guards in the next level. And they're the top two offensive tackles. So that just goes to show you how bad it is. And
that's what our Jets need too. We don't need a guard, but we certainly could use tackles. So.
Oh yeah. There's actually a couple of tackles in free agency. I might chat about later on. But the other thing is cornerback, safety. That's what I'm looking at. And there was one interesting thing you brought up a couple of weeks ago. It was about Malik Hooker. I was kind of blown away with that.
And did you think I was off base, or is it legitimate?
I haven't seen nothing about it. Like, I haven't seen the video or anything like that. But it's scary. Like, would you waste the number 6 pick on a guy that doesn't love the game? That he won't turn up whenever. He won't turn up the whole time. He won't turn up early. He won't be the first guy in the building. He won't be the first guy in the not the locker room, the weights room. He won't try and better himself. Guys that don't love the game kind of scare me.
Let's just think about that for a moment, because let's delve a little bit more into it. I mean, when I had first postulated that idea on this show, I didn't even know it yet. It was just kind of rumors that I was hearing. I fact-checked myself after I got off the show, and I watched the video, and you could hear him himself. He said, I almost quit football. His mom said the same thing. Even the coach that was recruiting him, one of the assistant defensive coordinators for Ohio State, he's like, I wanted Malik to be all in on football, but basketball was his first passion. And, you hear those things, and it's like, okay, football's clearly not his first passion. It's at least a big question mark. And if a guy is not all in his entire career, I get it. People can change their love. Maybe Malik Hooker will become Curtis Martin, because Curtis Martin didn't like football. Kudos to Glenn for bringing that up. But maybe he's just one of those guys that never completely loves it. Maybe he's Jamie Collins. And that stops Hall of Fame talent, because maybe it's a little crazy, but people are comparing him to Ed Reed with his ball skills.
Yeah.
That's Hall of Fame talent right there, if he's that damn good. And I'm not saying he is. I haven't even watched him all that much. That's what stops a guy who's like a Hall of Famer to a potential fringe Pro Bowl guy every now and then. And let's not forget, Biff, that we all loved Muhammad Wilkerson, but when we saw his lack of effort this year, and when we caught wind of him missing meetings and all that type of stuff, people, our buddies, Let's Talk Jets, the hosts over there, they're like, just get rid of him. He's dead to me. They just wanted to – we don't want players like that.
Yeah.
I don't care how damn good you are.
And let's also, guys, point out the fact where, you talk about Curtis Martin. That was a completely different time era. We were talking about this new CBA the new CBA era that we're in. If you're not passionate, if you don't love the game, if you're not all about the game, you got to do a lot of training on your own. The old CBA, if a guy was out of shape, hey, you're doing 3-a-days at camp in full pads.
Yeah.
A team will whip you into shape real quick. You come out of shape to camp, it might take you week 2 to get back into football shape because of how bad, it is. And especially now that the rosters have been extended and there's all these bodies now that got to get repetitions. So that is very troublesome if a guy is not passionate about football. Curtis Martin played in a completely different time era where, hey, this might have been just a job to him, but hey, listen, a good coaching staff could have worked with him, and and within 4 weeks' time would have got him in tip-top shape to be a good football player.
Yeah, and who's to say in a couple of years after getting drafted in the first round that you're going to get into your head and retire? Like you look at San Fran, they had 2 or 3 guys retire.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, that's the thing. These guys are – we keep seeing the pay scale go up. A guy that Kyle and I were near and dear to – well, not near and dear, but a guy that grew around real quick to us who was set to make a lot of money 2 years ago was Jason Worlds. And he just walked away. And
Jehovah's Witness.
yeah.
Maybe it's something with these local New Jersey products, Gary, because there's also Anthony Davis.
Eugene Monroe.
Mm.
Yeah, all these guys walking away before they really could. They still be making multi-million-dollars. But
yeah, and you know what? You see that, and they cash in. You know, they get big signing bonuses. I think Jason Worlds, Kyle, had some type of tag where he made like $10 million on.
I think it was a transition tag he was on.
Right, and after that one season, you know, he had a really good year, and he said goodbye.
Biff, your last take, I would say your first take was pretty hot, saying all the quarterbacks are trash, none of them are worth first round. I would say that's pretty hot because a lot of people are saying that, listen, all 4 of these, the top ones, are worthy of at least a late first round pick. So to say that none of them are worth a first round, I think is pretty hot. Your tackle take, it's pretty cold, dude. That's on the brink of freezing because I've been hearing all the same things that everyone's been saying this tackle class sucks. Do you got any more hot ones for us?
When it comes to the draft, not really the draft.
Well, let's ask him the burning question.
Okay.
We just fired Mike McCagnon. We just hired Biff Sweeney as the new Jets GM.
All right, we're going to start winning football games.
Yeah, that's right. 6 overall. Biff, what card do you turn in? What name is on that card?
Okay, running up to the stage with my card, and it's Jamal Adams, LSU.
Wow.
Safety.
Why?
Safety.
Yeah, because he's my number 2 guy. The guy's a tone setter. He can play free safety. He can play strong safety. When he hits you, he hits you. As well as that is. When it comes to the guys on the defense, I really like guys that can actually tackle, not just tackle, and he tackles. As I said, he's
was that a shot at Calvin Pryor?
Yeah. Not only him, I've seen in the last couple of seasons under Todd Bowles, guys when they're tackling, they don't tackle properly.
No proper form. They teach proper form over in Ireland.
That was drilled into me big time because I was a very bad tackler when I started, and I was put up against the biggest guy in the team. He was like Leonard Fournette, and he was my training partner for the rest of the season, and that's how I became a decent tackler. Anyway, I like his brain, his football brain as well. His attitude. I think he'd be a good guy in the locker room as well, and he can run with wide receivers.
Yeah, you could even throw him into the slot.
Yeah.
Take it for what it's worth because he did a Christian Hackenberg video last year where he said Christian Hackenberg is a first-round pick. I love him. He took out of all games, he took the Temple game where, the Penn State might have put up only single-digit points. Hackenberg was sacked like 10 times, and he said that Hackenberg had a great game in that game because of what he did pre-snap. To me, that was a little crazy, but anyway, he does really good film work. You could tell he's really experienced.
Yeah.
He knows a lot about the game, and he's a really good video editor, but Brett Coleman did an interesting YouTube video about Jamal Adams in which he talked about his skill set and how he's a tone setter, just like you said, compared him to Brian Dawkins and said he's kind of one of those guys, you have him on your team, people feed off the energy that he brings to a defense. He is a tone setter, just like you said. So if you haven't seen that video, go check it out. Brett Coleman with the, Kollman and Jamal Adams, should be one of the first videos that pops up. It's definitely an interesting watch.
Kyle, would you give that pick your blessing if that was 6th overall?
I wouldn't be upset if it was Jamal Adams. I do like him. I want to watch more of Hooker before I say, which guy I like better at 6. I feel like he's a very safe pick. And when you draft 6 overall and you're a team that's the Jets, you have a depleted roster, you don't want to be missing. So I feel like it's a very safe pick. You can also throw him at slot corner, like I said. I just feel like he would be and he loves football. When we're talking about Hooker might not love football. Jamal Adams absolutely loves football. So,
yeah. And to point out, Kyle, you and I, when we started doing our YouTube shows with Horace years ago, that the safety position was almost an afterthought, was not getting paid. Now you look at Eric Berry signs one of the most lucrative contracts, highest paid safety ever. It's unbelievable. And he's a guy that could line up against a tight end and cover him. We're talking about Eric Berry here. And if you have a safety that could play that role, it's a win-win for the organization.
And that's who Jamal Adams is compared to.
Yeah, that's Matt Miller's comparison, whereas he compared Hooker to Earl Thomas. Yeah. And they're definitely different players, different skill sets, but you'd like either one of them on your
Absolutely.
team. So Biff, let's move on. Let's talk about free agency. So Mike McCagnon's fired. Gary's tooting his own horn, of course, about that. But Biff, and he's double happy because his good buddy Biff Sweeney's the GM of the Jets now. He's also scared because he's scared that the Bills are going to be in trouble because Biff Sweeney knows his football.
But what Kyle doesn't know, that Biff Sweeney can be persuaded with a bribe. So,
so Biff, what is your ideal offseason plan for free agency in 2016 if you're the New York Jets GM?
Personally, I think that the figure's in around 26 million cap to have at the moment, maybe 20, depending on if the other guys. We'll get into that in a few minutes, but there's a rumor that they want to go and get a top 5 cornerback that's in free agency. I don't know what that's going to cost. I like AJ Bowie.
Big bucks. That's what it's going to cost.
Yeah, big bucks.
So Biff, you like Boye, but what type of contract are you signing him to?
That's the thing. It's going to be a massive contract because everything's going up. Personally, I'd rather Stephon Gilmore. I think he might be a bit cheaper.
He ain't going to be cheaper, I'll tell you that.
I don't think so.
He's not going to be cheaper.
The problem is that even Boye had a better season than Gilmore did. The track record's on Gilmore's side. And Kyle, I think you'll attest to that. Okay. He's been more of a consistent player than AJ has been over the years. And they're both going to make a lot of money. Janoris Jenkins, Kyle, we were baffled when we saw his even Josh Norman, Kyle. He was a one-hit wonder. He had one good season with Carolina, and he struggled at first with Washington, and then I got to admit, later on down the year, he did have a good season with the Redskins, but they both got paid ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking the Janoris Jenkins 5-year, $62.5 million. That's like what, 12.5, $13 million annually. I mean, that's for a player that struggled mightily. St. Louis or Los Angeles, Janoris was what, a first-round pick for them, second-round pick for them. He was a premium pick, and they decided, we're going to stick with Tremaine Johnson, and we're going to franchise him. He's more valuable to us. So he even though he was a struggling player, he went and got a big contract. There's no doubt that Boye had a better year this year than Jenkins did his last year with LA. So he's going to exceed that easily. He's going to probably get something closer to Josh Norman because Josh Norman was 28, 29 when he signed that deal. Boye is 25. Now, the thing is why I think Gilmore is probably going to get more because Gilmore, he's making no bones. He wants a really big deal. He's kind of got more of a big cornerback frame, and I think teams want those long corners. And also Gilmore, and we said this on the show before, Jason Fitzgerald over thecap.com. This is something that he's stated on many occasions, that there is something to be said where you are drafted also factors into the type of deal that you will get on your second contract. Go figure. Look at what Eric Berry just got. He was a 5th overall pick. Gilmore was a top 10 pick. Boye was undrafted. Boye had one productive season, whereas Gilmore had maybe 3 productive seasons. So for those reasons, I think Gilmore will get paid more. Although I guess I wouldn't be shocked if Boye got more just because of the age factor. And according to Albert Breer, he's the clear king, as the screen says, of this cornerback class. Okay. But either way, one of these guys is getting a massive deal, and you're telling me that you're cool with that, Biff, when we're in full rebuild?
I'm cool with them getting a big time payment, but not off the New York Jets, because we just don't have that at the moment.
You can't have your cake and eat it too, Biff. So you got to. You're the GM.
So that's why I'm going to go with Drake or Patrick, and as well as that, I'm going to actually try and talk Sam Shields into coming over for a 1 or maybe 2 year deal.
There you go. Now those are moves that are making sense. They're more cap friendly.
Yeah,
but still, Kyle, I still have to imagine Drake or Patrick is going to get some decent money as well.
Yeah, and he's not the player that either of those two guys are. So even like him, I'm thinking like, well, what are you going to give him though? You're definitely giving him far exceeding Buster Screen money. You're giving him $8-9 million a year. You cool with that? I'm really not, because Kirkpatrick had one productive season, and if you look at those Cincinnati defensive backs, I mean, usually they produce. Vance Joseph was coaching them up for a couple of years. It's when you go there and you struggle, that's a big knock on you.
Yeah, and then you look at the likes of Tony Jefferson. An awful lot of Jet fans are going mad for this guy.
True,
but he's a strong safety. We don't really need a strong safety. We need a free safety. And he's going to get some money as well, because he's out there shopping himself, because I think he mentioned he wanted to go to Oakland.
Okay.
Well, the Raiders, I should say, not Oakland.
Yeah, so let's get away from these big name guys, and let's talk about some bargain guys, some bargain basement guys that we can potentially sign. Because that's all I'm looking at.
Here's a name for you.
Me too, Kyle.
Here's a name for you, right? It's actually an Arizona guy. He was a 4th-round pick out of Texas, Alex Okafor. I think he might be a nice pickup for the Jets. He knows Todd Bowles' system. Todd Bowles knows him.
Well, there you go. See, now you're connecting the dots right there.
Yeah.
What do you make of Kevin Minter? I really don't know anything about the player, but I heard that, he's familiar with Bowles, has it in with the scheme. He's an inside linebacker from what I understand. He said that he would be willing to play for the Jets, explicitly said so. What do you think about him?
I like him, but the thing is, the Jets, it sounds like they're going to hold on to Harris at $6.5 million, I think it is. But Harris is 1 or 2 down back now. Where Minter, you could leave him on the field. He's a lot younger. He's a lot faster. As well as that, he's another leader. He knows the system in and out. But he also, as well, he's putting himself out there in the shop window, just like Geno Smith was doing all week with his interviews and his videos.
Kyle, what do you think Minter would command in an open market?
That's the thing. I don't really know too much about the player, so it's hard for me to project a contract.
I'm imagining he would get paid more than David Harris. Younger, more athletic. Like Biff said, he's a 3-down linebacker. So are the Jets willing to, they already spent a 1st-round pick last season on an inside linebacker, so they have a lot of cap in that position. I don't know if they would be willing to even up that even more with a younger player like Minter.
Yeah, it's a good point. I'm not totally sure. At this point, you can clearly tell that Bowles wants to hang on to Harris because he views him as the glue of the defense. Obviously, Bowles likes older veteran players. Why he stuck with Fitz so long, it's why he stuck with some of these veterans so long, and it took him so long to get to some of these young guys. So that's, I guess, why he wants to hang. I mean, this is a make or break year for Bowles. So you could kind of see maybe this is like, hey, listen, work with me, GM. You can't get rid of all my guys for me. So I don't know.
What about the left tackle spot? There's a huge hole there. So what about bringing in Beachum or Okuna if you can for maybe a 2-year deal?
I've been hearing Beacham's name tied to the Jets as of lately, but I got to point out one thing that really scares me. He didn't have a good season with Jacksonville.
And that's coming off an ACL too. So it's kind of reminding me of Ryan Clady all over again.
Yeah.
And not only that, I'm quite concerned with the guy's length. He's only 6'3". And for a left tackle, that's very, very short. So I don't know.
Biff, how tall are you, Biff?
How tall am I? I am 5'9".
5'9".
Yeah, I'm a shrimp. But I still play at the end.
So Beachum is 1 inch taller than I am.
Biff was the Elvis Dumervil of Ireland football, Gary.
I can see it.
Yeah.
Biff, any other really bargain guys before we let you go?
Okay, I don't know about bargain, but what about JJ Wilcox from Dallas? Because they have so many guys that they want that is actually hitting free agency.
He's
But
a
they don't
safety.
have that much cap.
Safety.
Kyle, I mentioned his name to you before.
Safety.
And I think that he is a bargain. He's a guy that could come up in the box. He's a guy that could play deep.
So is he more of a strong or more of a free?
He's a free. He's definitely a free, but he's a guy that'll lay the wood.
Now listen to me. If we're going to talk about bargain safeties, I got a name for the both of you. Duron Harmon, New England Patriots, Rutgers guy. This is a guy, he doesn't play a lot with New England because they got McCourty. McCourty's so damn good at playing center field.
Okay.
But whenever you notice Harmon come in, the dude gets interceptions. The dude has range.
Okay.
Now, obviously, New England players for years, they've gone other places and struggled. But when we think about what the Jets need, you're obviously going to cut Gilchrist and move on from his butt. You don't know if you're going to trade probably. Safety is definitely in need. Teams want this center field type of guy. You'd like to see what Harmon could do in a bigger role. Because he doesn't have this production, because he hasn't played so much, he's not going to get a big deal. I kind of like that name.
Yeah, and here's another inside linebacker for you. A guy I really like. I don't know if he's actually going to shake loose. Is actually Zach Brown. So you can fill me in, Gary.
You're paying big money for that one, though, Biff.
That's not going to come cheap, my man. A Pro Bowl guy who's 26 years old.
Can catch the ball.
He's a 3-down linebacker who's been proven to cover. I mean, here's a guy, Kyle's pointed this out many times on our show. Here's a guy who hawked down Julian Edelman in the open field. When Julian Edelman had, Kyle, would you say about 10 yards on him?
Easily.
Yeah. That just shows you the rare athleticism that this kid has. I think he ran a 4.5 flat at 250 pounds. I mean, the guy's a freak of nature, and he's only 26 years old. So, Biff, you're going to be paying. And listen, Kyle, the Bills got him out of steel last year. He was almost a third-tier wide free agent, and the Bills got him for a bargain deal. So this guy's going to want to cash in.
Yeah, this is the classic, prove your worth type of player, and he bet on himself, and it proved to work for him.
Okay. If he actually called the Bills up, he had his agent call the Bills up because he had no phone calls coming in because he had a bad rap in Tennessee. He got benched, and the Bills took a chance on him, and it paid off. But also it paid off for Zach as well.
Yeah,
I think this play right here. I mean,
I really liked him coming out of Tennessee.
Oh, I mean, he came out of North Carolina, but yeah, he did play for Tennessee. You're right. Yeah, that just shows you right there that there's probably only a handful of linebackers that could make that play.
Yeah, and Sheldon Richardson.
Yeah. Biff, great joining us. I know it's really late for you over there. We hope you can do a little bit more often.
Can I ask one question before I get off?
Sure.
Yeah, it's to you, Gary. What's the story with Tyrod Taylor? Is he staying or is he going?
You know what? I'm going to answer just like I answered Kyle last week. We don't know. 2 weeks ago, you probably would say he's probably a goner, but as of the last week and a half, it all points to he's probably going to be staying. He's been rehabbing at the Bills facility.
Yeah,
his agent,
I think he stays.
Yeah, I if I'm going to have to bet, they're going to work something out where they divide that bonus up. I'm mad. He wants to stay a Bill, and I think the Bills want him. So, and I know that Rick Dennison, a lot of who's the offensive coordinator, has been kind of champing in his corner to keep him. The big thing, it's all going to come down to the money. That's what it's going to come down to.
Yeah. And before I get off, because you, Kyle, basically said you wanted Hooker as your number 6 pick for the Jets. Who do you want as your first-round pick?
My first, you know what, Biff, I've been going back and forth between – you asked me a week ago, I wanted Corey Davis out of Western Michigan as my first-round pick. But as a close second, or possibly even I wouldn't mind having O.J. Howard. I just love his – I know you're smiling because he's a Bama guy. I mean, the big hands, the range, he could take it to the house any given play. I think in this league, if you could have a weapon like that, you don't have to line him up as a traditional tight end. You can put him in the slot. The Bills have yet to have that end zone weapon, and he would be that guy.
Yeah, and I want Jack Butt.
I got to ask you a question.
Biff's been on the Jake Butt train for a while.
Biff, I got to ask you a quick question, man, because and then Kyle, I'm going to ask you the same question before we let you go.
Okay.
As far as we talked about years ago, Jadeveon Clowney was one of the best edge rushers we've ever seen. Myles Garrett, is he a better prospect than Jadeveon Clowney is, or was rather, or is he below him? I got to know because I had an argument today with someone at the car wash when I was watching the NFL Network.
That's really interesting. I personally don't know, to be honest, because I wasn't the biggest fan of him coming out and being selected number 1. I would have rather your man that went to the Oakland Raiders.
Oh, Mac?
Yeah, I would have preferred him. But I prefer your man from.
I'm not talking about.
I prefer Garrett.
As far as a prospect goes, Kyle.
I didn't catch your question, Gary. What was it?
All right, so the kid at Texas A&M, Garrett, right?
Yeah.
Was he a better prospect, or is he a better prospect than Jadeveon Clowney was coming into the draft?
Hard for me to say. I didn't watch too much of Clowney coming out, and I really haven't watched too much of Garrett come out yet either, because I know that the Jets pretty much have no shot at getting Garrett. What I will say is he's, it seems like he's got a pretty good motor. People, I think, rave mostly about his size and his athleticism. I did watch him against Cam Robinson, and we're talking about how Cam Robinson's really not all that good, but I saw Cam Robinson stonewalling him on numerous occasions. I wasn't very impressed by what I saw from Garrett. I think he's way overhyped based on very little that I watched of him, to be honest.
All right. Well, I just wanted to throw it out there because, like I said, it was a recent debate topic.
Yeah.
All right, Biff.
All right, guys.
That is Biff of No Fly Zone Radio on Twitter at No Fly Zone Radio and at Biff ARUJet. Is it Biff ARUJet?
BIFFARUJET.
Okay. Biff.
All right.
BIFFARUJet. Biff Sweeney. Fun podcast. 2 Jets fans that know quite a bit about the draft. No Fly Zone Radio. Give them a listen. Thanks, Biff.
All right. Good night, guys.
All right. Take care, Ben.
All right, Gary, now I know that you need to leave a little early. Let's talk. If Doug Whaley gets fired, you're all of a sudden general manager of the Buffalo Bills. You have to take over for their in-season operation. What are you doing for this 2016 offseason?
Hey, pretty much like I was telling you, we're going after bargain basement guys. No big splash contracts. The Bills have Robert Woods, who's going to be a unrestricted free agent. They have Justin Hunter, who's going to be unrestricted free agent. Marquise Goodwin, who's going to be an unrestricted free agent. Brandon Tate, so on and so forth. So they got to address the wide receiver position. As of right now, they have Walter Powell, Colby Listenby, Des Lewis, and who else? So I'm missing one other. And Marcus Easley, Kyle, who's rehabbing right now. I don't know if he's even going to be on the roster.
Yeah, you can't bet on. That's a big-time knee injury.
Yeah, so and also, of course, Sammy Watkins, who's also often hurt. So you got to look at some free agents. I think names like Kenny Britt make a lot of sense. You won't break the bank with that kid. And, he's a big body guy, and he's a possession wide receiver. And at times he flashes. Kendall Wright, Kyle, someone I think you throw in the slot. I'm a big fan of his. I don't think you break the bank with that kid either.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon Tate, I would look to re-up with that kid. I think Robert Woods is going to make some decent coin, Kyle, especially that you sent out that tweet about Kenny Stills. If Kenny Stills is going to get, over $12 million a year, and like I said, the limited track record, you look at guys who have similar numbers to him. And I've been hearing a lot of buzz about Robert Woods, and even Donald Jones said if Kenny Stills gets this amount of money, I can't imagine what Bobby Woods is going to get. And I think Kenny Stills will get more money than Robert Woods, but I think they're going to be within the same ballpark. I don't want the Bills to spend that type of coin on one wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
So that is an area that needs to be addressed. I think that Brandon Tate and Justin Hunter might be the only guys that you re-up with. You leave Goodwin. You let Goodwin walk. You let Robert Woods walk. And not that I wasn't happy with Robert Woods' performance, but I just wouldn't spend the money on him. Now, the Bills will also need some more they'll definitely need some linebackers as well, Kyle. We talk, Reggie Ragland and Preston Brown are bigger guys. They're both in the 250-pound range. If you look at Carolina and their linebackers with Sean McDermott, they were 235, maybe 240. You look at names like Malcolm Smith from the Oakland Raiders, 230-pound guy. He can fly. A.J. Klein from the Carolina Panthers makes a lot of sense. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent. And like I said, these are – you don't know if they're going to be stars, but they're going to be low-budget depth guys at the very least. And then I also look at safety. Kyle, Corey Graham, I like him as a zone corner. I don't like him as a press man. I definitely don't like him as a safety. I think he should be a guy I would release him. And I would look at cheap names like J.J. Wilcox, like a Jordan Poyer from the Cleveland Browns. I also like Micah Hyde from the Green Bay Packers. Those are names. And you don't know if Aaron Williams is coming back yet. He's hinted, but he's never gave a definite answer whether he's going to be back with the organization or not.
What about Corey White?
Corey White is interesting. That's a guy that you definitely throw a contract at. I would look to re-up with him. He's not going to break the bank.
I was thinking about him for the Jets. I haven't, when I watch the All-22, I obviously watch corners. I try to watch the whole game as closely as I can, but obviously when you're not focusing on certain positions, you miss things. But a guy who's going to come on our show in a couple of weeks, Ian Morton, NFL, what's his Twitter handle? NFL Film Study. He does a lot of work with corners. He did the grading for the corners for the Bleacher Report, NFL 1000. He's done for years. He's had his own charting system. And I believe that he said Corey White actually graded pretty well for him.
Well, and I like Corey White, and I like the fact that you could plug him at safety or corner. The Bills have an interesting to me, if you ask any Bills fans or certain Bills fans, I don't think they're too upset with the thought of Stephon Gilmore leaving or walking away, especially at the money that he's going to get paid. Because, especially, number one, we're running a zone scheme, so you don't need a press man. You don't need a guy to latch on and stick like glue.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a few names out there in the roster that could run that scheme. You look at the guy towards the end of the season who we've mentioned on the show, Marcus Roberson. He played very well for the Bills. Kevon Seymour, Kyle, another guy who played very well for the Bills. I think you could get by with those guys. And, of course, Ronald Darby. Nickel Roby-Coleman is going to be an interesting a name because he has a hefty fine, and you don't know if he has a hefty cap number. You don't know if he's going to be starting. I think that he's a guy that I might consider releasing.
What about the Burner Werner, Gary? Alteron.
Well, here's another name I like better than the Burner Werner is DJ Hayden from the Oakland Raiders. I think that's a guy that's going to be low budget. He's never lived up to his first-round expectation, but I think in a new change of scenery, here's a guy who maybe thrive, especially in the zone scheme. So I like DJ Hayden better than Werner, and also he's 2 years younger as well. Let's point that out. Here's things that I will consider. Like I said, Corey Graham is a guy that I'm putting on the chopping block. Marcus Heasley is a guy I'm putting on the chopping block. As painful as this sounds, with the exceptional play of Ryan Grory, Eric Wood might be a candidate that I release.
Wow. Kyle Williams, Gary, what do you do with him?
Ooh. Well, first I go to him ask for, and he's been so gracious the last 2 years to lower his cap hit. So I'm going to go to him first. But if he doesn't want to confine, which I don't think he will, let's just say if he does, my hand would be forced. I think that you could get by with a Jarrell Worthy, and there's names out there like Jared Odrick that I think would be cheaper.
I will say that a lot of Jets fans were upset with the way that the Jets handled their Bickershaw-Ferguson last year because they didn't want to in an ideal world, they didn't want to cut him. They wanted him to take a pay cut, ideally. Right. And when he said, no, I'm not going to do that, then they're like, okay, well, goodbye. So, yeah. I mean, you're talking like Kyle Williams is kind of like DeBrickashaw in the sense that he's kind of like the guy that shows up every week, gives it his all.
Yeah, and
like
you know,
it's a disrespect if you do that to him.
I totally swing that, and like I said, I don't think there's any notion that he won't do that. The $10 million cap hit is hefty for a guy who's going to be 34 years old. I don't know, Kyle. It's an interesting dilemma, and I hope that we don't have to cross that bridge. I hope that he will lower his cap. And Kyle, like I said, he has the track record that proves he's done it the last 2 years. He's done to help the Bills out. So I don't know, but I think that the Bills, you know, like I said, bargain basement guys. I mentioned all the names I mentioned to you. I don't think will break the bank.
All right, Gary, what are you getting? What do you think about this crazy rumor that's being floated around about the Bills potentially moving on from Shady McCoy? Some people are saying, listen, the Bills are moving to a zone running scheme. Some people are saying that, you know, it doesn't really fit Shady's style all that well. Chip Kelly obviously ran that with Philadelphia, which I find to be quite interesting because you could argue that maybe Shady McCoy's best year that he ever had was his first year with Chip Kelly. So I don't quite get that. But some people are postulating that. I mean, obviously Shady hasn't been in that the past 2 years with the Bills, and he's been productive the past 2 years with the Bills. So.
Yeah, I look at it, and I might be picking off, but what Drew Rosenhaus has said. I look at it like this: with the uncertainty at quarterback right now, with our situation, and with the number one wide receiver who's often injured, the only mainstay in this team is LaShawn McCoy. So it makes zero sense to do that. I would be baffled. You're going to bank your running game, and I get that. And Mike Gillislee might do really well in this scheme because let's think about it. His style is a one cut.
Yep. See the hole and hit it.
And you know what? You look at Jonathan Williams, the kid we drafted last year from Arkansas. He might thrive in the system too. But those are both unknown quantities. We've seen Mike Gillislee perform well. And Kyle, I've retweeted a lot of stats at you because you threw Carlos Williams in my face. And Mike Gillislee actually outperformed that season that he had last year. Maybe not in touchdowns, but as far as yards per carry and whatnot, he did.
So what type of contract are you giving him then? Because, you know, he had, about 10 touchdowns. He's, you know, you ain't getting him
he's a restricted free agent, so you have to put a tender on him. He's not.
Good point.
So you don't have to really throw anything at him. You could put a third round grade on him, and I think people won't touch him for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my personal opinion is you don't, even with those two names, you still stick with Shady, and I think that you know, I don't know how much truth there is to that rumor. I'm not going to speculate, but I would just imagine if I was Doug Whaley, I'm thinking to myself, we don't know about Tyrod quite yet. I think the decision's already been made on Tyrod, but as far as the fans know, we don't know. And we definitely know we don't know how Sammy Watkins is going to rebound after this second foot surgery. Let's keep one of our better weapons in-house.
All right, cool. Anything else in terms of your free agency outlook for the Buffalo Bills?
I mean, the names I mentioned you, Kyle, like I said, I think those are all obtainable without blowing your load, for lack of better terms. You know, it's just that you could obtain all those guys and also re-sign, like I said, Justin Hunter and Brandon Tate are two guys I look to re-sign. I let Jordan Mills walk. I know that there's a rumor that they've discussed contracts, but I think that what you got out of Cyrus Kwanjo last year was it was very good play out of that kid. And why not just ride out his contract and let him play at right tackle? I don't think that I think he's probably the same what Jordan Mills give you, if not a little bit better.
Well, we definitely have a very similar outlook on free agency. I was scrolling through all the different free agents earlier today, and I was like, I almost want to sign none of these guys. But you have to make some signings. So you have to fill out a roster. But it's like, but when I think, like, I feel like so many of you're not going to get good value on that contract. And, it's so sweet. Like, I was shocked when the Jets got a third-round compensatory pick. I don't think the Jets have ever gotten a third-round compensatory pick. I know they got, like, a fourth-rounder a couple years back for LaRon Landry, but I don't think they ever got a third. And it's like, that's what the winning teams do. That's what the Steelers do. That's what the Packers do. That's what the Patriots do. That's what the Ravens do. Right. They let good players, not great players, walk, and then you get draft capital, and then you invest it in the draft. And when I'm thinking this, from everything that I hear, and I've been listening, I'm starting to get much more into the draft. People are saying this is a deep draft class. Yeah. Really deep draft class. You want to have a lot of capital this year. You want to build with young talent. Forget these free agents. Save your cap. You're not in a position to win now. Start letting some of these guys walk and don't sign much, and maybe you can get some kind of compensatory pick next year as well. Find ways that you can get more draft capital this year. Trade away Sheldon. And so I'm all for not wanting to sign many of these guys, and I see that you're definitely in the same position.
Kyle, I'm in a similar position. I'm actually in the boat where the Bills have their hand is almost forced where they have to, because with the Bills only have 6 draft picks, and they have 26 for unrestricted free agents, so they have to get a lot of unrestricted free agents to come into the building, because just sheer numbers alone, they don't have the numbers. So they have to sign, like I said, middle tier guys, and hopefully you get a Zach Brown, you get a Lorenzo Alexander to come into the building, guy that is almost an afterthought. And the names I mentioned to you, once again, I'm going to state that I don't think that are going to break the bank at all. I'd be shocked if DJ Hayden got a 5-year contract or Kendall Wright had a 5-year contract.
I totally hear you on that one. All right, let's go ahead and let's get to the phones. And he's been so patient with us. That's none other than Alex from, where is it, Suffern, New York, Alex? Am I pronouncing that right?
Yep, you got it. Suffern.
Suffern. I like that.
But Alex, you're a New Jersey guy. You're born and raised in NJ, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct. I was born and raised in Bergen County, a small town called Midland Park. You probably wouldn't even know you drove through it. It's so small.
What was the name of the town again?
Midland Park.
Midland Park. Okay.
Now, Alex, you were a wrestler back.
Patterson area.
Yeah, Alex was a wrestler back in the day, Gary, and even did he had a brief stint of coaching.
Oh, nice. I think he mentioned that on Twitter.
He did.
What weight class, Alex, real quick?
I was a lighter weight. I think when I finished out in college, I was about 145 pounds. But in high school, I think my senior year was 135, cutting from a natural 150. So wow, it was a pretty tough season.
145 in college, jeez. That's no easy task. Where did you wrestle in college?
Well, I went to Hofstra for a year, and then I got banged up a little bit. Then I came back home and was going to hang it up, and then I decided to get back into junior college. And one of my buddies from St. Joe's, who was a national champion at the time, Mike Lucenzio, he's a big name from my time. And once I heard he was going out for the team, he was putting a squad together, I decided to put my boots on one more time.
Awesome. Alex, what's on your mind, man? I know that you've been you're definitely well into the draft right now, and I know you've been tweeting out a bunch of different free agents. This seems like it's an exciting time of year for you.
Oh, absolutely. I'm a big fan of the draft. Free agency is always fun. You like to see where, all the big faces and all the big names are going to end up. So it's very exciting. Each day there's tags being put on, guys are being let go. So it definitely, for a team like the New York Jets, you get excited for things like this because during the regular season, they seem to let us down.
Yeah, this seems to be the glimmer of hope for Jets fans. People get excited every year. Oh, shoot, we just signed Forte, man. Yo, look at Forte's career stats. We got a big-time player coming. Yeah, I mean, shoot, people were saying that last year. Todd Bowles, Super Bowls. Uh, it's crazy how diluted some people can get. But anyway, so I think you've kind of come back into my thinking a little bit. We were talking a little bit on Twitter. You were saying, hey, listen, if Barry shakes free, obviously he's a great player. Gary and I just praised him on this very show. I was saying that's not the direction the Jets need to go in. And when we saw the contract he got, that's the contract he got not hitting the open market. Imagine if he were to hit the open market. He's got 32 different teams competing for his services. He could have even exceeded that, probably, in my estimation. So, I mean, although he's a great player, the Jets don't need to be going in that direction. I think that from talking to me and others, you were persuaded a little bit, but obviously you still want to sign some guys. Who are you looking to sign? I know you listened to Biff's conversation.
Yeah, well, he was the quality of the player that I think that the secondary would need. And, like Biff had said before, with going into the draft, Jamal Adams definitely seems like that type of player. And that would make sense for, where our secondary is. But as for the free agency, at this point, you brought up a guy that I had on my list, which was two New England Patriots, Jaron Harmon and Logan Ryan. I think both these guys, they're both 26 years old. They're going into their fifth season right now. So you'd have to think that, this would be their athletic prime for the sport before they start digressing. So both these guys had contracts for 4 years at $2.7 million. So it would almost seem like if you were to throw them $4 or $5 million a year, maybe with some language or an option to get out after 3 years before they hit 30, that might be a couple good signings to fill in some experienced secondary players.
Now, Logan Ryan, I think, is going to get a big contract. So what are you comfortable, what types of numbers are you comfortable giving him?
I'd preferably like to stay under $8 or $9 million a year if that's at all possible, because
it's not. I'm telling you, it's not.
Anything over that, I don't know if you might be paying a little too much for, someone that you're only going to get maybe another 3 or 4 good years of solid play out of without injury, bearing.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it is Logan Ryan is a multiple year starter. He, from an analytics standpoint, take it for what it's worth, Pro Football Focus, I mean, it seems like as the years go on, more and more teams use their services, and then they use those services to grade players. So it seems like more of the players that grade well in their system actually get, decent paydays. And Logan Ryan has graded well in their system, but, I think he's an okay player. You can put him on the outside right here. Alex, you got to join us on screen sometime so you can watch some plays and you can look at us and we can look at you. This is a pass deflection that he had. He's isolated on one side of the field against DeAndre Hopkins. Gives him a nice little jam off the line of scrimmage. Logan Ryan's probably best in the slot. He's good in the sense that he's a good tackler, and he's also got good ball skills. And, if the ball comes around,
you will never give this guy his due. You've been the biggest Logan Ryan hater since.
He's not a number one shutdown corner, which is the type of money he's going to get.
Absolutely. We're not arguing that, but I'm just saying, you just mentioned he's a good tackler, good ball skills. What more do you want from this guy? I want to start you singing his praises, Kyle, because you know what? Since day number one, since he's taken the starting role, you've been a big hater of his, and I just got to point you out and call you out on that.
Well, he's shut me up in the sense that he's exceeded my expectations. That's for sure. There's no doubt about that. And I think that you got to like his approach off the field. I mean, he's a guy that, he would train with Revis in the offseason. He really works hard to be as good as he is. Hard work is not a question for him. His love of football is not a question for him.
Alex, make no bones about it. This guy becomes a New York Jet. Kyle's going to be the biggest fan of his. Trust me when I tell you that.
I don't think so. Just like when we because Logan is ideally he's a slot corner. And what happened to the last slot corner that I think that we overpaid for? Buster Skrine. You know that I've never been a fan of Buster Skrine. We overpaid for that guy, and I'm sorry, he's not worth it. And Logan Ryan, you're bringing him in, you're giving him starter type money. That Janoris Jenkins contract, he can definitely get that, Gary, because Janoris Jenkins is a loser. And one thing we know for sure is guys that win Super Bowls, and Logan Ryan's got 2 rings. He doesn't have 1. He's got 2 rings. Teams look at that, and they say, we're going to pay this guy for that reason. So
listen, all I know is I see Logan Ryan right here on the outside. He looks like he's doing a pretty good job against a formidable wide receiver. So
you're cool with giving Logan Ryan?
I'm not. Listen, you just heard my stance on free agency. I'm talking about DJ Hayden, not Logan Ryan. All right.
But here's my thing, though. I'm not hating on Logan Ryan, saying he's a terrible player. I might have said that in the past. I'm not saying that anymore. I'm taking the L on that stance that I used to have. But I'm telling Alex, I don't think that we should sign Logan Ryan for the numbers that he's going to command.
Yeah.
Well, where do you think that the market will value him? What do you think he's going to be looking for that would make it so unrealistic?
He's definitely exceeding $10 million. There's no question about it. I keep hearing people say $7 million, $8 million. Can we get him for that? Let's not forget, Alex, back in the 2011 offseason, this was the lockout year, Antonio Cromartie, who was always an up and down feast or famine corner, he got $8 million a year. And he got $8 million a year when he signed with the Jets the second time. If Antonio Cromartie on his last legs is getting that type of money, what do you think a guy at the prime of his career coming off a Super Bowl victory for the New England Patriots that played all year for them, never missed a beat, he's a good leader off the field, what do you think he's going to command? He's going to command big money. He's going to get around $12 million a year, no doubt about it in my mind.
Yeah, that can definitely happen. Well, and I guess the way that you would have to look at it is if the Jets continue to make some tough cuts, and they could get up to, maybe 40 to 45 million in cap space. I've been hearing that there may be another 2 million getting thrown into the salary cap figure to bring it from 168 to 170, if I'm not mistaken. So who knows how it's all going to shake out. But if they do make the right cuts, you will have some money, and you can make some tough choices and, throw out some decent contracts out there. And yeah, I don't want to pay him $12 million. I think that if we're going to pay for a $12 million cornerback that's not going to be the shutdown number one, then, you should be allocating your money somewhere else, where maybe the safety position, and look for Tony Jefferson, or possibly trying to get somebody formidable at the left tackle position. There's not any really stellar left tackles in free agency, but we got to get 1 or 2 of those guys.
How do you feel about Okung?
I think what you guys had said before, no, you were saying that about Beacham. It sounds like a Clady situation here. I haven't done too much research on Okung. I have heard that he's not a complete bust, that he's still serviceable. At this point, any big body that's 6'4" to 300 pounds and can protect the blind side, I'll give him a look.
Yeah, well, like I said, Okung's not going to break the bank. But Kyle, I like to know, Logan Ryan, I like to know his competition. We know Gilmore's out there. We know Boye's out there. Who else is going to be out there that's going to compete for the money? Because we've seen this in the past, Kyle and Alex, that some of these free agents hold down, and they hold on actually for too long, and they miss that first wave, that first big payday. And it'd be interesting to see. I think Logan Ryan's going to cash in. I don't think he's going to get overlooked. But his market, who is he going to compete against? We mentioned those 2 names, Gilmore and Boye. I mean, one of those guys could lose out very easily, Kyle.
Yeah, Tremaine Johnson just got franchise tagged, and I thought I saw $16 million for him this year. So
yeah, well, that takes
that's just crazy.
Well, that takes him out of the open market. But if he was added in there, you got to imagine, maybe can you start talking $10 million a year for Logan Ryan? I don't know, but I think he's going to be in the $12 to $14 million range, I'd imagine.
I mean, teams need corners. I mean, you're in sub packages the vast majority of the time. So not only do teams need a number 1 and a number 2 corner, they also need a number 3 corner. So
can we pull up that free agency list on the corners, Kyle? I just want to take a glance at it.
Sure. And by the way, we talked about Logan Ryan against Hopkins. How did he look on that last play, Gary?
Oh, you know what? Like I said, I tell you right now, I looked a hell of a lot better than Revis did last year. How about
that? I mean, come on. That's not even a good comparison at this point. Let's just compare him to garbage to help me make my argument.
Well, all I'm saying is,
oh, sorry, the free agent list. I'm not looking up Logan Ryan. Free agents spot track. So Alex, you mentioned 2 Patriots guys. Any other guys that you're thinking about too? While I pull up this list.
Well, mainly the offensive tackle position. Some names that have been thrown around quite often: Mac Khalil, Riley Reif. Now I'm hearing Okun has been thrown into the mix, and I did see a report that they were interested, or they might reach out to him.
What about
the sooner the better to get this left tackle position taken care of, so that we could just start focusing on the bigger
Alex
needs like corner and quarterback.
What about Ben Ajalana? The guy played, when he first got thrown in there, he was a little rough. But I tell you, by the end of the year, I was quite impressed by how he was playing. No one's talking about Ben Ajalana.
I have a feel. Right. Sorry to cut you off there. I have a strong feeling that that's probably where we're going to end up having to go if we can't find anybody, with this tight salary cap situation that we're in. He seems like the guy that might be the starting tackle day one.
I mean, he's an unrestricted free agent, so the Jets are going to have to make a decision on him quite quickly. And, he's already got the rapport with James Carpenter right next to him. I mean, those guys are playing together. It just seems to me, you throw a different guy in there, you don't know if he's going to have the same. And really, how much is a Beecham or an Okun over how Ajalana played?
But here's the thing, though. We're hearing the reports that the Jets, they were pleased with how Shell played over the last 3 games. But Shell's a right tackle guy, and he's going to stay at right tackle.
I get that.
But Ajalana was serviceable on the right side, but he was god-awful on the left side. So if you're keeping Shell on the right side, that means Ajalana on the left side, but you saw that he was terrible. So why would you want to go down that road?
But I'm saying to you, Kyle, and he was terrible. But I tell you right now, wasn't Shell on the right side at the end of the year, right?
Yes.
Ajalana was not bad. That last 4-game stretch on the left side, he was not bad. He showed me something. I'll tell you this right now. I was watching that. And I always watch the offensive lineman. He definitely showed me something. But you're going to throw in a Beecham in there or a Matt Khalil, who's been god-awful as a first-round pick.
He has been. He was good that first year, but then it's really crazy to see that, though.
And then Russell Kuhn, who's Kyle, let's face it, guys. He's on the downswing of his career. This is going to be his 3rd team in 3 years. You're throwing kind of, dirt in the wind, and you're just trying to guess if these guys are going to be okay. I think you go with Ajalana. He's got the rapport next to Carpenter. He showed me something, and he'll probably become, and not for nothing, he'll probably be cheaper than those 3 names that we just mentioned.
Oh, he'll definitely be cheaper, but I don't.
But like I said, is the drop off good? I don't think the drop off is going to be drastic, and I don't think those guys are stellar left tackles.
They're not. And that's the conundrum that the Jets are in. You want to spend money, you're going to spend it on, I don't want to say garbage, but stinky trash. I don't know. That's probably worse, actually. It's just.
Well, I think that's the way you got to look at it, though. The way Gary had said it, is the drop off from overpaying for a used up tackle that's near the back end of his career compared to a younger tackle that, maybe the way you develop them is you get them out there and you just, sink or swim on that side. And then maybe a 2nd or 3rd round pick in this draft for one of those tackles. And you hope that you can develop that guy. And maybe he won't be the starter at the end of the 2017 season, but going into the 2018 season, that lineman may possibly be the answer at left tackle that comes out of the draft.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the fact that the Broncos chose to move on from Okung is a very telling sign. You don't just let left tackles walk and not pick up their option unless they're pretty trash. So I think it's a pretty telling sign that he's probably not the guy that you want to go to, especially with the type of money that he'll command. I guess I'd take Ajalana over those 2 guys when you factor in the money, but I don't love it. I don't love it at all. And it makes me wonder if did Shell play any left tackle in college? Do you guys know that answer?
I'm not sure, actually.
Alex, do you know that
I know
answer?
that they tried him in preseason, but you're talking he was with the 2s and 3s, maybe the 3s at that point, and I kind of saw him struggling, but that was in preseason.
He was struggling.
I'd have to I think he did get a little bit of time in left tackle that they said, but then he found his niche on the right side. And he would, when they were talking about him as a scouting profile, that he would be a better bet on the right side.
Yeah. And I remember back to those preseason games. I remember him on the left side. He was god awful. The Giants game, third preseason game, he was just terrible. And he's getting beat by guys I'd never even heard of that probably aren't even on an NFL roster at this point. And they weren't just beating him. Oh, they beat him for a second. No, they were beating him like a drum. So
yeah.
I mean, so it definitely looks like his strength is on the right side. Gary, I hope that we're not holding you up over there.
No, I'm gonna stay until 8.
Okay, cool. Alex, so let's talk a little bit of the draft. I know that you've been kind of doing a little bit of a deep dive. We already talked about some of the earlier rounds with Biff. Tell us some later round guys that you'd like the Jets to target.
Later round, I'd love to see them trade Sheldon Richardson to get another 3rd or 4th round pick and really take advantage of this defensive draft. And for the middle rounds, I would really like to see if they're going to look at one of these tight ends. Some of them calling a jumbo wide receiver, like Evan Ingram or Jordan Leggett. I'm not sure about Bucky Hodges. He's 6'7", the kid. It would be very interesting to see if the Jets decide to fill that void of not having a tight end in the middle rounds and going for one of these bigger, faster receiving tight ends. Because, our new offensive coordinator was working with some wonderful wide receivers and tight ends when he was in New Orleans. I think of Jimmy Graham and I think of Marcus Colston and players like that. And it would definitely be a lot of fun to see if he gets his hands on one of those types of players and develops them into our passing game.
Yeah, I mean, shoot. We haven't had – even Dustin Keller, I mean, he was a first-round pick, 30th overall. When you look at his entire career trajectory for the Jets, he wasn't all that great. The Jets let him walk when his contract was up. I mean, when's the last time we had a tight end trading a first or second rounder for Doug Jolly, first rounder for Anthony Becton? He carved a nice little niche for himself in the NFL, but first round pick, I mean, he was in that sense kind of.
You're forgetting the most infamous one, Kyle.
Kyle Brady, baby.
Kyle Brady over Warren Sapp.
Maybe I should pull up that.
Can't
clip.
let that one slide.
Oh my God.
I would pull up that clip, but I freaking still need this software update before I can play audio. So I'll wait for another time. They probably know something that we don't. They interviewed the fans afterwards. Why did you guys draft Brady when Sapp's on the board? Or was that when they drafted O'Brien instead of Marino?
No, they drafted everyone. All the Jets fans were chanting Sapp, and then they announced Kyle Brady.
We want Sapp. We want Sapp.
A little funny story. Joe Caporoso posted a GIF the other day, and it was with one of those moments, those Jet moments, and it's a Jets fan in, I guess, where was it, in New York, when they were holding it back then, before
Radio
they started putting around all the stadiums. And he puts his hands up, and he's got this this gawk on his face, like, what did they just do? And he posts that, and he's like, this guy saying, the Jets must know something. And the guy on Twitter hits him up and says, that guy was me. And it completely was. It was a pretty funny moment.
That is pretty hilarious. It's crazy, how big the world is, and there's so many people that that might follow your work out there, and you've never even interacted with them. But then sometimes it's like, wow, I saw that guy before, and we were just talking right at the top of the show. I think before you called in, Biff happened to notice a picture in the back of Gary's house, and it was Dan Henderson, and both Gary and I had the pleasure of meeting him on different occasions, totally independent of one another, totally not even planned, but it's interesting how things work. Anyway, Alex, thanks for calling in, man. Appreciate it.
Hey, always a pleasure, guys.
And Alex is on Twitter at Rufio_187, correct?
That is correct.
All right. So give him a follow, and we appreciate your call, Alex.
Take it easy, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex.
All right. So we're expecting Miguel Benzan from Pat's Cap to come on at some point. Hopefully that comes in so he can give us some, contract lingo, some free agency terms. he did tell me that he has an appointment. If that doesn't happen this week, then hopefully we can make it happen next week, because want to definitely get his primer on the Patriots offseason, what they should do, who they should look to sign, potential contract figures. Nobody knows it better than that guy in terms of projecting out contracts, and also want to get some clarification on some terms. So
they got a big dilemma, Kyle, coming tomorrow. So
oh yes, the big high tower. We all know that Bill Belichick, he lets people walk. He's not afraid to gamble in that regard. But you've already let Jamie Collins walk for pennies on the dollar. So you're going to let both, we would say at the beginning of the season, your two best defensive players talent-wise, you're going to let both of them go? You're going to turn it over to
well, not only that, Kyle.
Brandon Roberts?
They also traded Chandler Jones in the beginning of the season too. So that would be three within a calendar year,
Right? And Chandler Jones, he just got the franchise tag. So we're talking – Chandler Jones, he kind of proved himself. He went away from the Patriots. He's one of these players that was a former Patriot that kind of actually proved himself being away from that building. So, and let's not forget, he's a first-round pick. Mike Mayock said, listen, when we talk about this draft class in a couple of years, I'm going to say that this is the best guy to come out of it. So, yeah, it's crazy, but they still produced. They still had a good defense. Joe, we've been talking quite a bit of Jets. We delved into the Bills. We've almost not even touched on the Dolphins. I tried to get our buddy Travis, our Dolphins contributor, on. Wasn't able to make it tonight. He probably will join us at some point next week. I kind of want to get away from the Jets a little bit if we can, if you don't mind.
I'm about to do a 2-hour show about it. You can get off the Jets as much as you want.
Yeah, I mean, we did touch on Revis. We obviously wanted to do that with you. But you know what? Let's talk a little bit about the Patriots. And I know it's not free agency preview, but maybe I'll save that for when we have Miguel on a little bit. I wanted to get your take, because sometimes you come on here, you talk about Geno Smith and his workouts, and obviously Gary works out often and I work out often. All three of us, we go to the gym, and there's been reports about Tom Brady. He had to sit down with Peter King in Montana at one of his, incognito locations that he has. He wouldn't let Peter King disclose where it was. And they're talking, and Peter King's asking him, how are you still succeeding at the age that you're doing it as, whereas most other guys are just falling off a cliff in terms of production. And Brady talks about, the way that he takes care of his body, and he works with Alex Guerrero, this trainer, and they work on pliability so that they can have long muscle fibers rather than having tight muscles. Because when you go to the gym and when you train all the time and you're lifting all these heavy weights, you're making your muscles extremely tight. And when you look at some guys that are like bodybuilders or power lifters, sometimes they don't have no flexibility. They can't even scratch the middle of their back, or they can't touch their toes. So Brady's like, it's all about for me.
Are you talking about me right now?
Yeah, that's like Gary. I always see Gary doing this. Forced with his other arm to get in the middle of his back on the show.
Listen, no, we're in the same state, all right? Yes.
I was not talking about that, Joe, your polluted mind. But so Brady's saying that, a lot of football players, they train like this. They train all this certain way in the off season. They want to get this certain way. But then when the season comes around, you're training in a different way and your body's not used to it. And Brady is basically saying the reason I've been able to – he said, it would be very hard for me to get hurt, knock on wood. Kind of an arrogant way to say it. But, he's kind of saying that his training regimen is the reason why he's avoiding injuries. He mentioned how when Grady Jarrett hit him and he went to the ground, the reason why, he's not tearing a rotator cuff is because of the way that he trains, which some have pointed out that's kind of a shot at Jimmy Garoppolo, because Jimmy Garoppolo came in very limited reps. He hurt his rotator cuff when he was sacked against the Miami Dolphins in week 2. What do you guys make of Brady and his training? Is this a bunch of poppycock? Is he just saying this to promote his brand and he's going to get some type of cut on it? Or do you think that what he's saying actually has some validity?
Do you want me to go first? Or
yeah,
Joe?
Go ahead. Go, Gary.
Well, first of all, when he said a statement like that, if I was any team that's going to face Brady next year, I make a phone call to Mo Lewis and try to get him out of retirement right away. I mean, someone needs to smack this guy around and get him injured if he's going to make a comment like that. That's just not possible. But there is some validity to what he's saying. I got to say, I mean, you look at I always use the example of a rubber band. If you leave a rubber band out in the sun, it becomes dry and tight, and you go to pull it and it snaps. If you leave a rubber band alone in a room temperature climate, away from the sun, it bends, it moves, it's very hard to snap. So if Brady's not keeping his body tight and he is keeping his body loose, I could definitely see that there's definitely something to that it prevents from injury. So I believe that through and through.
Joe, what do you think?
Yeah, I actually listened today at the gym to that podcast, the PFW podcast. Maybe, like Gary said, maybe for rips and tears and maybe a hamstring pull that could help, being stretching out a lot, probably, doing plyometrics, probably doing yoga a lot. But in terms of, you break a bone, you break a bone. There's no way to train your body to not break a bone. So I think
call Mo Lewis up.
Yeah, I think it's a bunch of crap. I think he's promoting himself. And the guys in the podcast mentioned it, if what's his name, Gronkowski was doing this, would he get injured? Like, come on, he breaks bones.
When TJ Ward hit him, right at the kneecap.
Exactly. You look at Phillip Rivers, he doesn't get injured a lot. Eli Manning has never missed a game. So what is Eli Manning doing the same thing? Or is it the fact that Tom Brady doesn't get hit a lot because he usually has a good offensive line? He has a good team around him. For the most part, he makes some of the team. But he gets rid of the ball quick. So it was crap. I had to turn it off after like 20 minutes. I can't even listen to the 30 minutes you recommended, Kyle. It was
Joe.
Stupid. It was stupid.
And here's another thing, Kyle and Joe. What a prick that Tom Brady is. He has this golden secret, and his teammates are dropping like flies due to injuries. You think he would share some of his knowledge and wealth, and that would be the training regimen for the New England Patriots.
He is suggesting. I think some of them, like Julian Edelman, have partaken in this, even though Edelman still had foot problems this year. But again,
well, phone call number 1 needs to go to number 87. But
he's not like a physical specimen either. He kind of looks out of shape if you see him on the beach with his shirt off. Yeah, he's like 6'4" or whatever, but. He doesn't. I can't even see muscle, defined on him. He's kind of just whatever. I don't know. But like they were saying in the podcast too, for guys like tight ends, for offensive linemen, for defensive linemen, for outside linebackers, for safety, you can't do this stuff because you need to be strong. Regardless of how flexible you are, you're not going to be able to get past a block of a 210-pound running back with flexibility. So I thought it was crap. I couldn't listen to it. I'm sorry. It was terrible.
Oh, but Brady's saying, listen, if you're a quarterback, you only need X amount of strength to be able to, do the bare minimum what you need to do. Like if I increase my bench press by 50, 75 pounds, it's not going to increase my throwing strength. I only need like a certain level of strength. So it's better for me to have these long, pliable muscles rather than building up all this tension, whereas it makes it easier for tendons to snap or whatever. But then think about it, though. He's saying that this is kind of like a one-size-fits-all. Like any lineman could do this. A defensive lineman, an offensive lineman could do this, and they would also, prevent injuries. But think about it, though. Those guys do need strength. They need to push off. They cannot look like Tom Brady and still be successful. They need to have some kind of brute force to them.
Yeah, maybe they can mix it in, but to do fully what he's doing, I don't think it would work. So I thought it was a bunch of crap. And the thing about, you said bench press too, and I think it was maybe you guys were talking about it last week or the week before.
Yes, with Connor.
When are you ever blocking somebody from your back from on the ground? It's stupid. I know it might help a little bit with offensive linemen, but bench press is supremely overrated, I think.
Well, if you think that, then you better stop posting pictures of you at the gym.
Oh yeah, because I do that all the time.
Is there even one photo of him at the gym, Kyle?
No, the only picture of me at the gym was the one me making fun of Geno Smith. That is the one and only from my entire life.
All right. Don't. I was about to say, Joe, not even I do that. All right.
No. Oh yeah, Gary, and I heard you last week call me out on Tyrod Taylor. What was this?
I've heard you mention you and Kyle Fay in your fantasy. Your fantasy.
So Gary, so if you,
I guess you believe in unicorns and the tooth fairy too.
no, but your quote was that we thought he was going to our team. Not once.
Listen,
not once.
You were on the show
Not
and
once.
you said, and I'll quote, "I hope they pursue Tyrod Taylor." He hasn't even been released.
So I have a question for you.
I guess we're playing fantasy.
Haven't you brought up Tony Romo to me? Why would you bring up Tony Romo? He's not off the Cowboys yet.
I asked you. I did. I ask you that question.
Yeah, you did actually. So why are we living in fantasy land over here?
I think you did.
I like to see it. I don't believe Joe. I think maybe I said something in the nature of, well, if you're talking about Tyrod, why aren't you talking about Tony Romo? I believe that's what it is. But either way, I guess Joe believes in dragons and Santa Claus as well.
If you go back to the show where I mentioned that, I said to Kyle, I don't believe he's going to the Jets. But when you do a show every single week on the Jets, you have to bring up possibilities. So
you weren't as bad as Kyle Fay. He had him on his big whiteboard.
So is this kind of like an apology, Gary?
No apology.
Hey, Joe, I know you listened last week. You just said so. And I'm the one with the listening problem because Gary was saying that I had a listening problem last week.
Yeah, I heard, and then you went on Twitter. Gary didn't respond.
Like I said, you guys are still not bringing me up the sound clip. You're just saying that I said this.
Hey, Joe, if you want to spend the time locating that, you point it out to me. I'll grab that audio.
All right, these are the two individuals that hound me all out off season.
I'm starting to search now, Gary.
About Stephon Gilmore, and Darrelle Revis. And who was proven right? That's all you got.
Oh, yeah, but you even admitted, one, I came on and apologized on my show, on your show, and on Twitter.
About damn time you did.
But you also said that it was a viable argument, and it was.
I did say that. But it took you long enough to finally admit that you threw in the towel.
Hey, Joe, I like when you come on here and you stir the controversy. We need more of that. We're going to go to Miguel. And you got to go run to your show. We're not going to make you late this time.
Awesome. All right. I appreciate you guys having me on. We'll see if Gary's so tough when we hang out. I don't know. I'm kidding.
We'll find out.
No, I'm kidding, man. Great talking to you guys.
All right. That is Joe Blewett at JoeRB31 on Twitter, at Jet Nation Radio on Twitter. Listen to his podcast, Jet Nation Radio. Listen to it every Wednesday morning, as it is a fresh episode every Wednesday morning for me. And I always enjoy it greatly. Next, we're going to bring on none other than Miguel Benzan from at PatsCap on Twitter. And he runs a great salary cap website, patscap.com. What's up, Miguel?
How you guys doing? Sorry for being late, but the dentist went a little bit later than I expected. Sorry.
Oh, it's totally all good. And I thought
Miguel, coming from two boys that are mom is a dental hygienist, we understand the importance of good hygiene. So
okay, thank you.
No apology necessary.
Yes. I was like, oh man, and then I was like, oh, let's get something to eat before, because Fat Tuesday, so we got something. I had to get something to eat, and then I came on here. Oh, sorry.
Oh, we're glad that you could join us, Miguel. Let's start. We've been talking about this, mentioned his name several times already. What is going on with Dante Hightower? Is it possible that and you said from day one that he should be priority one for the Patriots. Is it possible this guy is going to leave?
Yes, it's possible. I was like, I'm surprised. Like, literally, I've been saying, like, I thought they were going to put the franchise tag on him and then reach a long-term deal before July 15th, because that's the deadline to reach a long-term deal with a franchise tag player. Like, I've been joking around. I think I said it several couple times on Twitter. If you love someone, you set them free. If they don't come back, they weren't yours. He might not come back. Like, literally. So I'm like, wow. Because my brother called me right at like at 3:00 because he knows, like, was like, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, like, literally, I'm surprised. I should have seen. I was predicting he's gonna get tagged, but wow, because it's only like $15 million.
And they got so much money. You pointed it out. They have a plethora of cash.
Oh my God, yes. And it's only he's gonna probably reach a long-term deal that's in the $13 to $14 million range. So it's only a couple $1 million more than that. Jamie Collins got $15.85 million in his first year's deal with the Browns. All right. We all know that Hightower's gonna probably look to do better than Collins. So he's probably looking to get 16. So in the first year cash.
Oh yeah, he should because he's the first round pick. Collins was the second round pick.
Yeah.
Collins was traded. Hightower wasn't. Hightower's come up big in the Super Bowls, made game-changing plays in both of them. So of course, he's going to look for more.
Miguel, what is the likelihood that he stays though in New England? That's the burning question. If you had to put a percentage on it,
there's got to be a team out there. How likely is there to be a team that blows him away with an offer? And that means it would have to be like in the $14 million range. Because if he gets near $15, $16 million, that you're paying him like he's a pass rusher. And he's not a pass rusher. But if he gets 14 and they front load the deal, what happened there? I don't know what happened to the page.
Oh, can you see your Twitter page?
But it was on the full screen. Now it's not the full screen.
Yeah, it's not the full screen because I'm sharing my screen right now so we could look at some of your tweets.
Oh, okay, all right. Oh, okay, all right.
Don't worry, nothing bad happened.
Okay. I'm now I gotta go back and look at who needs linebackers and how willing are they to pay the $14 million. I gotta think he's gonna. If it's for the money, then he go anywhere. But if he wants to go to a team that wins, that limits his number of suitors. If he wants to go someplace that doesn't have bad winners like New England, that's not that many teams. You know what I'm saying?
He's got two.
I'm not worried about like the Texans. I'm not worried about them making a run at him because they don't have the money or the cap space. I know that the guy who writes for the Dolphins, Omar Kelly, is not a big fan of Dante Hightower.
Who cares what Omar says?
I know, really. But if I was the Dolphins, I would do it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, who wouldn't want a premier linebacker?
Exactly.
But hold on. Here's the biggest question, Miguel. We've thrown this question around 3 times. That you'll be the third. In fact, you'll be the third time. We just promoted you as the GM of the New England Patriots. What number are you throwing at Dante Hightower? What number would you be comfortable giving him?
13.5.
And if he wants more than that, you let him walk.
Okay. What number I wouldn't pay him?
Let's just say Dante Hightower comes to the table. Hey, my good friend Jamie Collins just got this. I think I'm worth 15 per season. Or
he's walking. I could probably go no more than 14.
So 14. So we just got you from 13 to 14.
Yeah. Well, no, 13 was
what you're comfortable with.
I'm comfortable with, but I would go. You tell me what's number that's the least comfortable with that I still pay would be 14.
Okay.
I don't think he's taking 13 anymore.
I don't think so either. I think
13 was a good deal at the end of last year.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But now he's played. The closer you get to free agency and you get everybody whispering those sweet nothings in your ear and telling them how much money, the guaranteed money you got to get. 14 is the most uncomfortable because that's around a little bit more money if you're just for the cap than what Mayo got.
Yeah.
And then again, when Mayo got, he didn't have the injury history that Hightower now has. So I'd be going with 14.
Yeah, and Kyle, you and I have stated this numerous times on this show, and I know, Miguel, you and I in the past on Twitter have gotten into a debate about this. I thought you were in La La Land if you thought we could keep Chandler Jones, Collins, and Hightower. I didn't say that you said that, but I remember you and I went back and forth.
Yeah, I said there was a chance, but I would never thought once things changed and once people got paid, like Vernon got paid, I said that was gone.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
and
right.
that, like I said, this was we're going almost 2.5 years ago when I talked about this. But
once Vernon got paid, I was like, oh, Jalen Jones was gone.
Yeah, but here's the bottom line.
That's crazy.
Hightower's got 2 rings, so now the only thing left for him to do is cash in.
Exactly. The same thing that I've been saying, like Logan Ryan's going to cash in, Deron Harmon's going to cash in. They have no reason to say, well, you can play for a winner. They already won. You might as well cash in.
Yeah.
I mean, and Hightower just doesn't have Super Bowl rings. He's also got national championship rings. The guy's done plenty of winning in his career. Let's win. Let's win in the checkbook now.
Yes.
Now, Miguel, for me or Gary, some guy that only knows the salary cap at a very basic level, we can come on a show and say, "Oh, we're comfortable giving him $13 million a year." We can say that, but you, the salary cap expert, probably no person outside of an NFL front office knows the salary cap for a particular team better than you.
Thanks.
You got to come on and say a little bit more than that. You also got to talk to us about the structure of the deal.
Oh, okay.
How would you structure the
that.
deal?
I'd go 5 years. I'd give him around 5 years, $30 million guaranteed. I think off my blog. Oh, man. And I want to say the same numbers I have on my blog. Because I think I paid. Can I go to my blog?
Yeah, sure. Where should I go on your blog? I believe I'm on it right now.
Oh, because
patsfans.com?
Yeah.
All right, let me pull that up. Just give me a talk while I pull it up.
I would say 5 years, $30 million guaranteed. He's getting like a $20 million signing bonus. I'm on right. Oh man, because he might. I wrote this a while ago.
Oh.
Yeah, because I wrote this in the. It won't be in the first 10. That was like an article I wrote 20 articles ago. Hold on a minute.
Do you have your own page on the website?
No, but hold on a minute.
If you're able to send me the link, I'll pull it up on the screen. No problem.
Yeah. I just with you taking over, it's hard to figure out what I'm doing here. View watch.
And just for the listeners out there, do yourself a favor in this time while the podcast is playing and we're waiting for Miguel to pull it up. Do yourself a favor. I don't care if you're a Bills fan. I don't care if you're a Jets fan. I don't care if you're a Dolphins fan. Go ahead and follow Miguel, because not only will you just learn about what's going on with the Patriots salary cap, and everyone in Pat's land follows Miguel. All the beat writers follow him.
Oh, yeah.
And to be honest, Miguel, sometimes you retweet some of my stuff. Some of the beat writers follow me. I'm like, what the hell?
Really? That's so cool.
That yes. So much appreciated for that.
Yeah, it's funny. I love tweeting your stuff out, and then you put the moments thing. I'm like, oh man, should I just waited? But I love those tweets. I mean, because see, so my last deal with him, I was gonna make sure I'm looking at the last one. So, wait a minute. I gotta show you this is the one I would have worked up, but it's not the one people see. Hold on a minute.
So Miguel, and he came on episode 37 of this podcast, and he broke down some things to me that I didn't even know existed. Like, what are some of these rules? And some of them are even slipping my mind. I've listened to the show probably 2 or 3 times myself on rerun, and a lot of it's really technical stuff. Like sometimes you got to listen to it back to back, and I feel like I got to go through, listen to it again, and actually take careful notes on it. But he knows a lot.
Yeah, it's that's why some people ask me I repeat answer the same question twice a lot of times on Twitter, is because sometimes it takes people a while to get the answer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like
I'm sorry, I'm a visual learner. Some people are not, so that's why I don't have a problem answering the question again. I don't know how to do this. I have the link on my clipboard, but I don't know how to tell you how to.
So Miguel, just send it to me in a DM on Twitter.
Okay.
If you could do that.
Okay.
And then I'll pull it up on the screen.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
And Miguel, while you do that real quick,
yeah,
I had a question. What is the difference between an exclusive franchise tag and a non-exclusive?
Okay, great question. Okay, so exclusive franchise tags means you can only negotiate with that team. So, for example, the Kirk Cousins got the exclusive franchise tag with the Redskins. No team could negotiate them. So, therefore, the notion that they're going to trade. He would be traded limits that, because a team can't negotiate with him saying, hey, Kurt, I want to sign you to a 5-year deal at $20 million, this amount of signing bonus. Because they can't even talk to him legally. So that prevents other teams talking to him. And what the exclusive franchise number is the greater of 2 numbers. One is to be the non-exclusive tag number, and we're going to just use Hightower. Well, actually, let's just use Le'Veon Bell, because he's a running back. and this is where it came up, where NFL Network has a video out there that's wrong. All right. He got $12 million. He's got a $12 million non-exclusive tag. The week before the draft, the NFL and the NFLPA is going to look at the 5 highest cap numbers for running backs. If that average is more than $12 million, that's Le'Veon Bell's new exclusive tag number. Okay, so let's say the five running backs have 2017 numbers and they come up to be $20 million a piece. Let's just right? Then the Le'Veon Bell's exclusive tag number will go from 12 to 20. Okay, it will never go less. But if the 5 were like 10 million, it wouldn't go from 12 to 10. It'd just stay at 12. Okay, and franchise tag players can talk to the other 31 teams in the league, and if the team wants and they agree to a deal, they can go to the old team and say, I'll trade you a player or draft picks, but I'm not going to give you 2 first rounders because that's what's in the CBA is 2 first round picks.
Yeah.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, it definitely does. Miguel, we got to ask. The New England Patriots have, a good amount of free agents, unrestricted free agents.
Yes.
Who are some of the names that they got to resign?
Got to resign.
I mean, like you said, we already think that.
Okay, got to resign. Okay, let me just look at. And I think Branch is now. I'll see, but he's with
you got all this cap. Don't be.
No,
don't,
but if I say Branch, then
now.
I can't have my dream guy. My dream guy is Khalil Campbell. Okay.
Calais Campbell.
Campbell. Okay, but I'd rather have.
I don't know if you just heard, but Jared Oderick is coming tonight to fly into New England. So
he's got this thing. Okay, but he could sign him. He could sign him right away. You know what I'm saying?
By the way, Darrelle Revis was just released too.
Oh, God bless
him. By the way, is this the article that you were talking about, Miguel?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
All right. Well, let's talk about in-house guys.
Okay. So this is if you can see on the screen, I started talking about comparables because literally, 2 years ago there was 3 really good inside linebackers: Bobby Wagner, Luke Kuechly, and Hightower. And I was just going through, those to me, those are the comparables. Okay, and I was just showing the numbers. Okay. And then at the end, right here, I talk about what it would look like, blah blah blah, and then this is not the last. This is one deal, and then I go in there and do some more deals.
Now, again, you wrote this at prior to the beginning of the season, though, right?
Yeah, I wrote this at the end of October.
Okay.
End of October.
So obviously things change now. Though.
Yeah. So I said if it was the deal, I think the last one says if it's after the season, the money the money went up from the deal that I put that up a little above. I would have given him less money because now, he's once you play a season, you already took on the injury risk. And for example, I didn't know in October when I wrote this, that he was going to make the game-saving play. I mean, to me, his sack, it saves the Patriots. You know what I'm saying?
Of course.
Yeah. That had some value. And then boom, 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 boom. And then I think I go down, and this 12 is like this is like they reached a deal before the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? But now I'm up to 13. I'm up to 13, and I can make the case I can live with 14. I can live with 14. I can live with 14 because that's a little bit more money than what Mayo got. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money for an inside linebacker when you think about it.
Yeah, but that's the funny thing is that the inside linebacker market hasn't really moved that much from Mayo. You know what I'm saying? No one's topped really. If you adjust for the cap, no one's topped Mayo's deal.
You just feel like the Patriots should be. You can't lose that much talent at linebacker in just 1 year and still expect to produce. And I just feel like you don't know how much longer you have with Brady. We say it all the time. We just talked about how he is preserving himself, but it's kind of crazy to think that he's still going to be elite 3 years from now. So why not just go all in for this year? It made sense for me to franchise tag. And I was honestly saying there's no way he's going to hit the open market. I was saying that to some Dolphins fans that were getting giddy about it, but now I might look like a fool because one thing's for certain is Bill is always looking to the future. He's always looking to the future.
And the funny thing is like literally how it would be if he goes someplace else, the next question is, how do you replace him?
Oh, yeah, that's always the question.
And then you better hope that Moses Cabrera has the same amount of success with injuries, keeping people healthy. Because if you're depending on Kyle Van Noy and Shane McClellan to be your number 1 and number 2 linebackers after an injury, woo, look out.
Yeah, that's a scary proposition.
Yeah, that's a scary proposition. I mean, I don't even know, like, a rookie linebacker to ask him to do what Hightower does in the first season. Oh, my goodness.
Miguel, let's make this rapid fire. Okay, so Bill steps down from his GM role. He's just going to do coaching.
Yep.
He brings in Miguel Benzan to run the GM operations.
Yep.
What are the first couple moves you're doing? Rapid fire.
Rapid fire.
Once free agency opens.
I'm signing Hightower. I'm going after Khalil Campbell. I am making a run at a couple of RFAs. I'm screwing with the Dolphins. I'm going to make a run at Kiko Alfonso. I'm going to probably go after some wide receivers, maybe that I can get. I'm looking for a 4th or 5th wide receiver on a one-year deal. I'm looking maybe like a Cordell Patterson. I'm going to offer Jamal Charles an incentive-laden deal, really cheap because he's had 2 years on the IR. There's no way he's going to get even Matt Forte money. You know what I'm saying? You can get him for with $1 to $2 million. I think,
and he's a great pass catching back too. So
yes, I mean I know he kind of duplicates what we have, but
Miguel, I love all these moves, and I know you put a lot of thought into this before you even asked this question, but. Yeah. But meanwhile, all the Patriots fans are on the message board trashing you because they want to know, what are you doing about the guard situation?
What?
They're trashing you right now. They're saying our GM, we cannot keep Shaq Mason and Joe Tooney as our guard.
What about Trey Jackson?
They're trashing you still right now on the message boards.
Oh my goodness!
They're replaying that clip in the Super Bowl of Shaq Mason getting trucked by Courtney Upshaw.
Yeah, but he's 2 years. Come on, guy, give a room of improvement.
All right. Well, I'm saying you're the GM.
I understand that, but literally, if you get a veteran guard, you have basically. Also, you might as well have you're gonna waive Jackson.
You don't want to make a run at Zeitler or something like that? There's some decent guards out there.
Yeah,
Kevin Zeitler.
I'm just wondering, what would you do? Wow. Literally, if I was going to, then I would. The other thing I would do is I would have spent the money on Solder. Wow.
Let me pull that Upshaw play up.
Yeah.
You know what?
Okay.
Come on, Miguel.
I understand where you're coming from, but I was happy.
We got to protect the golden boy.
Oh my God, yes. So, I'd probably sign. I like Bennett, so I would sign him to a deal as long as he doesn't agree to more than get paid and more than Gronk is getting paid. You know what I'm saying? If he agrees, if he wants more than 9, I'll let him go. But if he wants to get paid 8.5 a year, I'm golden with that.
That.
And then I try to steal a cornerback. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking for a really good number 2, but at a cheap price.
Would you sign Logan Ryan? Would you re-sign him?
I don't think I wouldn't get in the bidding war with Logan. I tell him, I offer him some money, and then the top of I would sign him at the top of the number 2 market, and that'd be it.
And what is that?
Yeah,
that's around 8, 9.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
He's getting well over that.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I think he's going to say, and I don't blame the boy. But I think he's getting more than that. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I would offer him a deal if he goes and he says, hey, I wish him good luck and thank him for his service. Same thing with Harmon. I think Harmon's going to get more money from someone else, then
yeah. What do you think Harmon's going to get? Because I'm looking for bargain free agent signings for the Jets because they're in rebuild. They need to make.
Oh, he's not going to be a
bargain. You need to fill needs, but you don't want to overpay. And I think Harmon, he's a guy that he doesn't really get the chance to do it often because McCourty is so damn good at it. But he's the guy that can play, center field, and he's got decent range and he's got damn good ball skills. So I kind of would like him with the Jets for the contract figure that I think he's going to command. But what type of?
I think he's going to get 5 to 6.
And I'm not actually. I'm not all that upset with that, to be honest.
But I think that's 5 to 6. That's more money. I think that's more money the Patriots is going to pay because he's getting close. He'll be getting more money than Chung, and he's always playing less snaps than Chung.
Yeah. Well, does he take over that role? I mean, Chung is getting up there in age. I mean, does he?
Yeah, but he just to sign a deal. Like literally, there's somebody said they're talking about taking Chung a pay cut. I'm like, let's not. Players gonna just say no. Yeah. You better be able to. If you're gonna ask a guy to take a paycheck, you better be able to. What are you gonna do when he says no?
All right, Miguel, I'm actually going to be leaving the show right now.
Okay.
But I got some homework for you. I want you to tweet at me 2 interior linemen that you at least make a bid for.
Okay, I'll look that up. I wasn't looking at the offensive.
I know you weren't. I know.
I was going looking for tackles. I've been looking for tackles.
All right.
These damn Patriots fans, they think that Dante Scarnecchia can fix everything.
Yeah, but
that's a good though. I'm gonna look at the guys.
They're so spoiled, Kyle. They are.
Oh my god. When my brother called.
2 names I need from you.
Okay, I got you. I'll get you 2 names. When my brother calls me asking about Hightower, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. It's like it's March. The season doesn't start till September. It's not even February. It's not even March yet. We're still in the last day of February. And come on, they don't even play for real until September. Let it go.
This reminds me a lot of 2 years ago when the Bills had Jerry Hughes as a free agent, and I didn't hear anything from them. I'm like, what are they doing? And they came right down to the wire, and they signed a really good deal with him. But
yeah,
but I almost had a heart attack because of the unknown.
And he was a player that I wouldn't mind the Jets getting.
I know you wouldn't, Kyle.
Yeah, but if you're afraid of, like, literally some guy tweeted at me, it's like, I'm dreading this. I'm like, oh my god, like literally, it is not. You got 6 months. They got 6 months to build a team. More than 6 months. Because they'll make a trade during the season.
Yeah. They'll do it. Any team can do it. It's the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
That is the great Miguel Benzan at PatsCap on Twitter, patscap.com. You can also go to his pinned tweet on his Twitter page for his suggested charity. People really appreciate the work that Miguel does with the salary cap, and they want to give him money. He doesn't want their money, though, but you can donate it to the Bread of Life.
Go forward.
Information is at the top of his Twitter page. See the pinned tweet. No problem. All right, Miguel, thanks a bunch for coming on.
Anytime.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
And Gary's going to be leaving us, but somebody's going to join us. The final call of the show.
Kyle, I think that this is a great way to end the show with this next guy.
That is none other than Nick Baby Love. Nick? All right, is MBL still there? All right. Maybe MBL fell asleep on us. He's kudos to him. He was on hold for a really long time. He happened to call in at the absolutely worst time. But anyway, that's going to do it for this edition, unless Nick Baby Love comes on before I close this baby out. AFC East Bros, Kyle and Gary. Gary's on Twitter, AFC_East Bro Gary. I'm on Twitter at AFC East Bros. Email the show, AFCEastBros@gmail.com. You'll notice that sometimes we talk about plays that come up on the screen. We'll talk about contracts that we pull up on the screen. We talk about articles that we pull up on the screen. We do all that kind of good stuff. And you can see us. You can see that portion of the show on YouTube. Although I know that 97+% of you guys just listen to us via podcast, which is the natural intention of the show. I consume everything mostly podcast. But if you happen to think that, oh, that was an interesting debate that they had, I would like to see their faces at that point in time. I would like to see that play that they discussed and how Logan Ryan shadowed DeAndre Hopkins on that given play or how he got beat by him on that given play. Check out the YouTube portion of our show. And if you could subscribe, even if you never watch us on YouTube, that would be greatly appreciated. If you can leave us a 5-star rate and review on iTunes, helps get the show out to many more people, we would also greatly appreciate that. Jeff Lloyd is going to be on next week, one of the draft gurus, to discuss wide receivers. He's a former college receiver himself from one Monmouth University, which has produced other NFL wide receivers such as Miles Austin and Chris Hogan. So Jeff Lloyd, Monmouth University receiver, will be coming on to discuss wide receivers next week. You guys can also come on the show too. You got to call in though. That's going to do it for us. I'm Kyle, AFC East Bros. I'm out. Speaking for Gary, we're the Smith Brothers. Peace.